Hey everyone, this is Will with my not a podcast response to episode 4 on the economy. I do have to apologize that I wasn't able to make it with the rest of the folks the other day. I was out stumping for my particular candidates. Florida is in play. If you believe the polls, we're within 1 to 2 points, and it's going to be a tight race. There's only 12 days left as of the day that I'm recording this. Now, Dion says that I have the advantage of having well thought out and researched responses, and I'll tell you up front that that's not what you're about to get. I was really surprised as I watched and listened to the original recording of episode 4, and I found myself really wishing that I had been there. There were so many instances where I really I was getting excited and yelling into the laptop. So I guess I'll just get straight to it. And so it really all came to a head for me during the wrap up. And Dion, I'm going to start with yours. You know, your wrap up, you had mentioned that you felt like both parties, Democrats and Republicans, that what you see is a lot of that the government saying that we know better than you and that we need to protect you from yourself. And when you said that, I was like, Dion, earlier in the episode, you said that Social Security earns half as much as any other savings account or retirement account, and you wanted to protect people from themselves because the people had chosen Social Security. And that your argument, it seemed like, was, just because the people don't know about these other alternatives, that you, as the libertarian, wanted the government to protect the people from the decisions that they've already made. And that was one of the times that I was like, Dion, what are you doing? You're a libertarian. The libertarian position is supposed to be that the government just stays out of it. And whatever the people want, the people get. So when Thea was trying to make her point earlier in the episode that the people have chosen Social Security. The reason why Social Security is considered the third rail of politics, no politician can deal with it without getting fired. The reason why Senator Rick Scott from Florida, puts out a plan that says he wants to sunset all federal programs, which therefore would include Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, and then immediately has to walk it back, is because the whole country was up in arms because they like their Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare. And while I tend to agree, Brett, with your point that just because it's the way we've always done it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way it should be done. These programs have been around long enough. People have paid into them for so long that the people have decided that those are the programs that they want. And, Brett, you were mentioning the war tax, and that, if we had to pay the war tax and then the wars keep going on, eventually the people would vote the politicians out. It's the same thing with these federal programs. And it seems to me that part of what it means to be a democracy is that if the people choose it, it is right. That, it sounds cliche to say or whatever, but and in fact, we say it a lot in civil military relations, that politicians have the right to be wrong. The people have the right to be wrong. If the country has decided that Social Security is the bee's knees and it's the best thing ever, and you better not touch my Social Security, then isn't that what being a democracy means? And I found it so surprising that the libertarian and the Republican were the ones saying, no, we're going to decide for the people what they should want. And they should not want Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, those types of programs. Now, I get the libertarian position that there should be really like no government programs. I get the Republican conservative position that, you know, the program should be minimized or privatized. But I found it odd that the two representatives of conservatives and libertarians were the ones saying, well, at least it seemed to me that you both were saying, well, we want to choose for the people because they don't know any better, that they have chosen poorly. Now, the other thing that Brett had mentioned was, you know, the conservative position that you let the market decide, and that plays into this same argument. The market has decided. The people are the market. They have decided that this is the program that they want. And it's when we're talking about letting the market decide, you know, I'm thinking about the conversation earlier in the episode about the highways. You know, I bet you enjoyed driving on that road. You know, and Brett, you had your example. You were driving from Ohio to Pennsylvania, which is not across the country, and it cost you $60. You paid $60 in tolls to drive between two states that, if my geography is not failing me, are like next door to each other. And now if you expand that, if you were to privatize the entire highway system in the United States, in my opinion, like, travel becomes prohibitive for everybody except the richest portion of America. And if you then expand that into the other programs we were talking about, one of them was the fire department, right? The only way that these things work, it's a collective action problem. Everyone has to pay into it. Otherwise, it will be cost prohibitive. You know, my portion of the property taxes that I pay that goes towards the fire department, it's like $50 a year. There is no privatized fire department that's going to charge me only $50 a year when people get to pick and choose whether or not they're going to participate in that particular fire department. You know, it's the same underlying principle behind the individual mandate in Obamacare, that the fact that everyone has to pay into it is what drives the prices down. If we gave people the choice of what taxes they could and couldn't pay based on what they do and don't receive, then all of the costs are going to inflate and end up becoming cost prohibitive. You know, it's a common argument with education, which I understand, you know, towards the end of the episode, we talked about that'll be a topic to come. But, you know, when people are like, well, I don't have kids that go to school, so I shouldn't have to pay for any of this public education stuff. Well, okay, but you benefited from the public education, potentially, as you were growing up. And the only way that we can provide free public education to every kid in America is when everybody pays into it. And that gets to Thea's point about what kind of a country we want to be. You know, one of Brett's closing comments was something like, it's not the government's job to provide for the needs of the people. And I strongly disagree with that. I think that's exactly what it means in the Constitution when it says provide for the general welfare, that it's not, you know, welfare as we commonly know it today, you know, but having some level of safety net, some baseline where we as a country say that we are prosperous enough and we care about each other enough that we refuse to let people fall below this line. And I forget who made this comment, not because they were lazy or they made stupid decisions, but just because of dumb luck, just because of perhaps where they were born and, you know, some of the earlier practices in our country that did not benefit everybody equally. There's just a certain level of humanity that we have decided as a nation, like you shouldn't have to choose between eating and paying for your insulin, so then government gets to go negotiate drug prices and brings it down to $35 a vial. Those are the types of needs that I do believe that as a country we have kind of decided that the government will help to achieve, to fulfill that level of need. So it was, I really enjoyed listening to it. I was, like I said, I was really upset that I wasn't able to be there because I don't want to say yelling at my laptop as I watched it, but like super excited and super confused on some of the positions that I was hearing coming out of both Dion and Brett. But it is, the role of the government, and especially as we talk about economic policy, I mean, that is a big fundamental difference between libertarians, Republicans, and Democrats. And I feel like the way that the arguments were made during the episode came in conflict with some of the other planks of the platform of the Republican and Libertarian parties, that where libertarians want the government to stay out of your business. The economic argument that I heard from Dion was, we have to protect you from yourself because Social Security sucks and you need a better retirement plan. You could choose your own better retirement plan. So I really, I'm sorry that I missed it. I'm glad that we have this format, the not an episode format. And just to keep in line with what we've been doing here, to end it on what makes me happy. The fact that we're doing this podcast, the fact that we're able to have disagreements, the fact that we've, in our side conversations have said we're not that far apart. And I do think that this particular episode, we might have shown how maybe we're further apart in this particular aspect. But when you really get down to it, all of this is nuance. The world is a complex place and all of these policies are complex, but when you just sit down and talk about it, you're not as far off as you might think. And there's certainly no need for the other side is the enemy, the other side is going to destroy America, the other side this, if you treat everyone with respect and humanity, and if you assume good intentions, and you assume that they're not doing or saying things out of malice, there are compromises that we can come to, and that there's ways that we can move forward on all of these things where nobody gets everything that they want, but the issue, the challenge gets moved forward and we get closer and closer each time we kind of talk about it. So that really is right now what's making me happy. I appreciate the opportunity to respond, and I look forward to joining you all again next week. As Dion said, like and subscribe, and we'll see you later.